افتح الميكرو افتح الميكرو.
محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of the Almighty God be with all of you. My name is Qasim Al-Sagir, and I have the distinct honor in serving as your master of ceremony for this evening. We will begin our program with a recitation of the Holy Quran by Ibrahim Farash. Help me welcome Brother Ibrahim ba'da salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فتور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
On behalf of his learned scholar, Sheikh Abdul Latif Berry, Sheikh Dr Ibrahim Kazarouni, Chairman of the Board Hajj Kamal Shuara, and the entire Islamic Institute of Knowledge family, we welcome you to our nightly Ramadan English program. Imam Ali al-Rida alayhi salam once said, "O people, anybody who in this month, Ramadan, cultivates good manners will walk over the Sirat, bridge to paradise, on the day when feet will tend to slip." Before I introduce tonight's special guest and renowned scholar, Dr. Sheikh Ibrahim Kazarouni, there are a few program announcements I need to make. We kindly request you silence your phones and refrain from speaking during the lecture so everyone may benefit from its educational purposes. Tonight's lecture, as well as previous lectures, can be viewed at our website, iiokonline.org. The Islamic Institute of Knowledge will be giving away 3 iPads during our English program. Participation requires individuals to pay close attention and be able to correctly answer questions related to the lecture. The correct answers will then be entered into a drawing at the end of the week for the prize giveaway. Only 1 drawing per family, please. Following tonight's lecture, we will have a question and answer session. We encourage everyone to participate. Our featured speaker, Sheikh Dr. Ibrahim Kazarouni, is currently a professor at the University of Detroit Mercy teaching world religions. Sheikh Kazarouni holds a PhD in philosophy with a concentration in religion and social change. Sheikh Kazarouni studied at the seminaries in Najaf, Iraq, and Qom, Iran. Please help welcome to the podium Sheikh Dr. Ibrahim Kazarouni with a loud salawat.
صلوا على محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. Sisters and brothers, colleagues, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to begin tonight's conversation by going back to Khutbah Sha'baniyah and taking a piece of that khutbah as a theme for tonight's conversation. In the list of recommendations that the Holy Prophet had in that famous sermon, he says something which rings to the way we live in today and explains the plight of our community. إن أنفسكم مرهونة بأعمالكم ففكوها باستغفاركم. Your deeds, good deeds, is chained by the bad deeds. Release them and be free to decide for yourself by a repentance and changing direction. Let me begin by a brief recap of the conversation that I had last night, where I finally took the fourth category or the fourth section of the verse 183 Surah Al-Baqarah and tried to explain the relationship, what is the meaning of taqwa and how it links to the fasting. To make it easier, particularly for the younger generation, our younger brothers and sisters, I had to bring in mythical stories as a metaphor and explain to the brothers and sisters that if they have come across these books or they have read them or have watched the films, normally the way the story is structured is that there is either a good wizard or a bad one, and they all have their own heroes. They try to create an environment around their heroes in which the shield would protect them from any evil or problem or harm that might come to them during the battle or the confrontation. And I took that as a way to draw the picture, make an image. So if you can envisage that in these mythical stories there are individuals that they create these shields around, say, their heroes, what we are expected to do by going through this fast is that ultimately we have to gain some kind of protection, inner protection, that protects us when we are confronting the shortcomings and the sinful situation outside. Not to run away, but to be able to confront it and neutralize it, rather than be affected by it. I also alluded to the fact that societies from early history, they work and function on certain values that dictate and is prevalent within those societies. There are societies, capitalist society like the one we live in, wealth becomes the framework by which one's worth in society is established. The more you have, the more successful you are, the more influence you have, and the more worthy as a person you become. And I said that if we pay attention to the verses in the Holy Quran, we see similar kind of mindset between the stories that Quran explains. One of the classic one is the confrontation between Prophet Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh. When Musa stands in front of pharaohs and says, I am the messenger of God, the question is, how can you be a messenger when you don't have gold and silver? That's the framework by which they judge the worth and the value of the person. If you don't have gold and silver, you are nobody. Or even if we go to the history verses about the history of our own Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he says that I am the Prophet, declared his prophecy, what did the Quraysh say? How can prophecy come to you? It has to go to two honorable individuals within Mecca and Taif, not you. You are the poor orphan of Bani Hashim. That's the mindset. So based on that value system, Islam came and changed, literally radically shifted it. Class, material, race, gender, and everything else was removed, and the concept of taqwa with one declaration was made the essence of value, and not something that we judge before the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna akramakum indallah atqakum. The judge is somebody else. The framework by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the judgment is not wealth, class, race, color, or creed, but taqwa itself. How much you, through your action, how much you can create this resistive shield around yourself that protects you from committing sin. After the conversation was over, QA developed and gave me a number, or brought to the surface a number of questions. One of them was that we really, and we have to, or there are a number of crises within our own community. The youth have problem, the parents have problem, the boys have their own problem, the girls have their own problem. Islamic centers have their own problem, religious institutions have their own problem, schools have their own, you name it. These challenges must be confronted, but how? That's the $64 million question, as they say. And then I began to receive a couple of emails from the sisters, again, nothing from the brothers, asking why can't we change radically the structure by which we deliver our programs at night to construct programs specifically for the youth orientation. One of the sisters hit the nail on the head. She said, do you accept that the youth have a totally different learning process? The youth have the rate of the capacity to absorb is shorter than the adult. They have a different mental picture and process that they use to understand what is going on. They need a different language and narrative to be used for them to explain it. I was left speechless. I have to say yes, 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 I agree with them. If that's the case, then the classical approach to delivering a lecture for the adult and at the same time expect the youth to comply and come and sit down and listen to it, while everything, all the mindset is different, is problematic. This afternoon as I came out, or this evening as I came out before iftar from a lecture that I delivered at the Islamic House of Wisdom, a sister approached me and gave me this piece of paper. After the usual greeting, شيخنا الفاضل من خلال دراسة الواقع في الجالية وما نتعرض له من تحديات على مستوى العقيدة والأخلاق والقيم، على مستوى طلاب الجامعة، الأهالي والمؤسسات، في هذه التحديات التي تعوق من السمو الروحي والأخلاقي. And she goes on, and then at the end, exactly the point that the other sister proposed in the email last night. That I was thinking about it, actually structured the presentation tonight to be slightly unorthodox, rather than pick up a topic and say, nail it down and say, this is how I'm going to approach it, I'll deconstruct it, and this is the hadith, this is the verse, and take it or leave it, and let's get out of here and QAs. I want to propose a number of suggestions tonight. In the light of these letters and the number of emails that the 2 or 3 sisters sent, we certainly understand that there is the question of language. Our youth, the mode of communication is in English. You will be lucky if you find individuals that, or kids, that they can fluently communicate at home in Arabic, to even go beyond it, to be able to use, to master the language to the degree that they can use it to understand the culture, their own history and background. By the way, this is classic colonial policy. Every colonial power, when they go to a country, the first thing that they remove is the old language that linked the present generation with the old history and culture. Look at the French during their colonial power. Swahili, that was the dominant language of Central Africa, was removed, and what happened? French was substituted to it. One of the African scholars wrote an article about this. He said, I was flabbergasted when I attended a conference in one of the Central African countries. When the speaker began to speak in Swahili, the leaders, these are state leaders of these Central African countries, picked up the microphone to listen to it in French. This is a classic approach to removing the linkage between the new generation with their history. Then people like Hegel and German philosophers can go and declare that Africa has no history whatsoever. Or who said Middle East was the central of civilization or something else? Once you adapt the new language, then that language becomes the source of information for you, not your own previous language. So there is a fundamental problem of the language. Let us begin by proposing a number of solutions. These are ideas. We have problem with the youth when it comes to understanding basic juristic principle or ideas about their own faith. Ask them about Salat, they don't know. Ask them about Sawm, they hardly. If their parents are not aware of the intricate details of Salat and Sawm, what do you expect from the children? That's one issue. Ask them about the details of, say, other religious issues or religious principles. They have no clue. Can we, in the light of the conversation that this sister and the proposal that she had, that the youth have totally different... Let me explain this. In the past, during the Victorian era, goes back to the late 19th century, the debate in Europe started as to exactly what are children. Are they some uniquely formed character which we need to study and analyze and understand, or they are adult in a small miniature scale? The conclusion was that they are adult in a small scale. So if you look at the literature that exists at the time for the younger generation, the narrative is exactly the same as the adult, with minor changes here and there to make it accessible for the children. The studies And research done by a number of scholars, particularly in 1960, Piaget and others, and a group of child development specialists, clearly counters this understanding. It says that children have totally different world, totally different way of understanding, totally different way of perception. If we really want to develop something for the younger generation, we have to restructure everything. So once we see that there is a problem of language, can we use the opportunity that the month of Ramadan creates to develop workshop, some kind of seminars, symposiums that would bring in on a regular basis the youth, and we have conversation about these issues. Say the first 3 nights or 4 nights of Ramadan, you will deal with ahkam. We also have problem when it comes to basic understanding of our aqaid, concept of God. It's foreign, double Dutch. Concept of imama and wilaya and nubuwwah. Nobody talks about it. Concept of the hereafter and its relationship to this dunya and our responsibility and the tension or the synthesis that exists between the two, nobody mentions it. We just come, recite a number of ahadith, hereafter, taqwa, and then get out. How about organizing classes or again seminars or workshops that deal with specifically with the right language that talks to the youth in a level that they understand? We tend to develop our children on a one single layer approach. If we want them to become good at, in their educational struggle, it will be at the expense of becoming politically savvy. If we want for them to become successful economically, it will be at the expense of spiritual development. Somehow, an all-rounder that is able to function on all levels, that you have the faith, you have the economic development, you have the education, as well as you are politically savvy and experienced in your life, it's not the children of our community. Very few. I was doing some research on Ivy League universities and their expectation of the children that they go there, or the younger ones that they go there. Look at the list of experiences that they are looking for. Language, at least 4. A broad prospect of history, broad prospect of geography, broad prospect of voluntary work, broad prospect of understanding the community, politically savvy, street savvy, etc., etc. Our children will not come even close. Not because they don't have the mental capacity to do it, because we as parents have failed to deliver the program for them. We're still living in a cuckoo's land. We are living in 20, 30 years ago. The way we were taught, we are going to teach our children. Although there is a hadith clearly indicating from Amir al-Mu'mineen, teach your children from the time that you are not going to be there, and they have to deal with the crisis of their time. How about organizing classes that equips them? Bringing them to the center. Make the center the hub for the youth community in your own area. How about voluntary work? Where the youth organize programs and go around their own area and find out the poor, the needy, the destitute, and see how can they help these individuals. How about the youth going around and checking on the sick and the ill at the hospitals? Getting involved in the community. How about the youth themselves becoming politically savvy, in which they understand the intricate detail of this complex society, that on the one hand uses secular narratives to explain about democracy, on the other hand, deep under it is the old Christian mindset that still exists. And then Brother Rashid last night was asking indirectly how we can be effective in the society. Knowledge is number one. Understand your opponent before you develop a policy that would ultimately neutralize it. But if you have no understanding of who you are, going back to what I mentioned to Haj Kamal, there are two fundamental principles for every community: self-understanding and self-expression. If I don't understand who am I, how can I develop a narrative that would explain my value to the rest of the community? How about making these centers the hub and bringing them the youth? I'm not saying at the expense of the program that we develop for the adult, but parallel with it. Once we accept that the adults' comprehension, mode of education, the way they learn things is completely, or they are completely different from the youth, we can't expect a miracle to happen here. Either for a speaker like me to stand here, try to pitch it for the youth, and then the adult will be bored, or try to pitch it for the adult and the youth are wondering if it is floating in the black hole. They have no comprehension. How about making the center? Again, some organized policy for the youth. We have, letter after letter, email after email talks about mukhaddarat, ibahiyya, sex, kufr, jihad, ijhar, almaniya, you name it, they have all this in the list. And these are the parents that their kids go to. Where these schools around us here? When are we going to do something about that? I remember during 1980s Muslim Parliament in Britain, the founder of Muslim Parliament did the research by organizing research going to state schools. Specifically, the target was to find out what is the effect of the state school on the mind of the so-called children of educated or religiously orientated community. After detailed analysis, they came to the conclusion: for every hour that your child spends at the state school, you have to spend 2 hours to brainwash them and bring them back. How many of us have 16 hours a day to spend with 8 hours that they go to school? The best we can do is to run to stand still. Our children are at a disadvantage. The mode of language that they speak talks about a different culture. What they are being taught is totally different history. What they talk about as far as values, they are totally different from ours. There are some overlap, but primarily different. No wonder every child that is given an opportunity to come and speak, they don't ask anymore any question about faith. I went to San Diego a couple of years ago for 12 of 13 nights of Muharram. Parents came to me at the beginning of the program and they said, we want some kind of program to be organized for our youth to talk about aqidah, jihad, imamah, this kind of things. I said, hold your horses. Let's find out what the youth want, not what you want them to find out. The first night that I organized the program for the youth, there was nothing about Imam, nothing about Nubuwwah, nothing about hereafter. How do I deal with homosexuality? How do I deal with lesbianism? How do I deal with drug? How my friend is this, how I can deal with it? My brother is that. These are the problems that they had to deal with. We are digging a hole and putting our head in it and expecting that the world, I see no evil here, no evil. How about radically shifting the approach that we have when it comes to this opportunity that you can bring the youth in, but construct something different for them where they benefit as much as the adult within the community. We will be responsible. We are responsible for it. We will be asked, how did we work and equip and educate our children? Can we sit at home and really open up a free-for-all conversation with the children to see exactly what they want to ask? Or as soon as a critical question comes up, we shut the question down, period, no conversation. So we can organize Quran. We say month of Ramadan is month of Quran. Very few children within our own community fluently reads Quran, let alone organizing competitions that they would participate and recite from heart. Can we organize such programs here? There are a number of other issues that we can deal with. So we, brothers and sisters, we really have a number or list of issues that we have to deal with. We can either ignore it and the youth will take their own path and move away, as we have seen it in other generations and other faiths as well. Churches for sale, synagogues for sale, temples for sale. Once the old generation disappear, the younger generation simply have nothing in common with the center anymore. The center becomes a white elephant in the middle of the community that has no value whatsoever. To prevent that and protect our future, the future of our children, it's about time we radically change. There is a cliche, I'm sure Brother Rashid is familiar with this. When the going gets tough, only the tough get going. How tough we are depends on how we organize our own program. On the night of the 21st of Ramadan, Amir al-Mu'mineen writes his wasiyah, an advice to his children, so that when they open it, this is a clear instruction to his children what to do. What is the first sentence that the wasiyah opens with? Not about salat, not about zakat, not about sawm, not about jihad. Allah, Allah fi nadm amrikum. Get yourself organized. A society that has no plan for 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now is disorganized, dysfunctional. The issue is not just to pass from one Ramadan, finish it, and then go into this black hole stagnant until the next one. The opponents are working every second in between. What can I say? It may be too much to ask, but it feels great to have, to daydream, as they say. We have few questions. Some time for question and answer, and we have two du'as as well, du'a iftitah as well as du'a kumail. So let me end here by asking everyone to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the...
Take your time.
Okay, because Abu Ashar.
It's okay, Abu Ashar. Take your time. شو قايل؟
لا ولا شيء انه في عندنا برنامجين اليوم
It's okay.
دعايين
معلش I don't care. Take your
We
time.
spend it a little bit for question.
We have it until 12 at least, so take your time.
We spend it on question and answer.
That's fine.
Yeah. Let's ask everyone to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the soul of all the deceased, those of that are present here, as well as the family of Samahat al-Marjan, everybody else. And then, inshallah, we open it up for question and answer. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
start.
Sorry. You done?
Yes.
Sheikh, so basically with what you just said right now, I think you definitely touched a nerve, and it was very hard for me to sit through that because it's everything that I've been feeling throughout my experience. In other words, what you indicated, I believe that young people are expected to participate in activities without having been involved in the decision making. That's always been like one of the major things. The youth have to feel like they're a part of the decision making. I've always used a funny saying, but and the saying is, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu.
Yes, this is one of the problems that we have, that even when we try to organize something for the youth, we speak on their behalf rather than allowing them to speak for themselves. And I suppose this has been one of the ways that our parents have organized themselves, and we were never asked to participate in decision making or even allowed to make a decision. Always the decision was top-down structured for us. So we're part of the point that I raised by re-evaluating the way youth understands. To use the academic language, youth epistemology is totally different from the way adults gain knowledge. Different process. The rate of absorption on the graph that they show is it drops very fast. There is a hadith that says the first 21 years, this is crude translation, the first 21 years of a child has to be divided into 3 phases, 3 7-year phases, where the teaching is continuous right from the beginning to the end, but the methodology and the style and the format changes. The first 7 years, teaching has to go through playfulness, because children have energy, they have to run around and release that energy. But the energy of this education has to be structured. It's the macro level, the umbrella that education takes within it. The second 7 years is with slight discipline. The third is by friendship, where the methodology changes. Again, the goal is the same. Why? Because once a child reaches the age of 14, 15, it's not the discipline that works, it's the friendship that works. Whether we are able as parents to become the friend with our own children, that is the point. If friendship and friends are the mode by which the children associate and learn, if we don't become their friend, somebody else is going to become their friend. If we don't provide them with the information, somebody else is going to provide them with the information. And if somebody else that has an agenda provide them with the information, then we will lose at the end of the day. So what I'm asking for is not to change the method by which we deliver these information to our children. But they have to be there to make a decision.
Thank you, Dr. Kazarouni. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome tonight. I want to apologize for what Abu Ashraf did. His concern is about the Arabic program, which starts after midnight. And they have 2 du'as tonight. One is du'a al-iftitah and du'a kuman, which take a bit longer. But we are committed to delivering the program as we do every night. And we will not break it short. Just if you run into any issues, just let me know. Okay, so we'll continue as normal. Hopefully we can finish by midnight or maybe a few minutes after midnight. That's fine also. This we advertise that we have an English program throughout the month of Ramadan, specifically through the first 17 days with Dr. Kazarouni. And it happened that we have a few of our community members that show up after midnight for the Arabic program. If you're willing to stay, you're more than welcome to do so. There is also breakfast or suhoor that's served with the Arabic program if you want to join them. And it's free, okay? Free to take home also. So again, thanks for coming in, and I apologize for any misunderstanding that may have happened. With that said, I want to remind everybody that we still have the question from the lecture, it's not really a lecture. Was it really a lecture tonight?
No, it's
just
more sharing ideas.
Yes, the sharing of ideas from Dr. Kazarouni. We will have one question. We will pass out the pieces of paper that we have here, so you can write your name and phone number on that, and with your answer, and then we'll collect those from you. We'll have a drawing on Saturday, which is 2 days from tonight, and we will have 3 winners, 1 for the iPad and 2 for the gift certificates, with 2 more drawings to follow in the next 2 weeks, inshallah. So that said, Doctor, do you have a question for the audience?
Because tonight was not what I call traditional lecture style, where more of a sharing of ideas, I listed a number of problems and a number of solution or approaches. Name one of those lists that I have said that Islamic Center could develop. One of them.
One of the suggestions
Yeah,
that
one
you
of the
gave.
suggestions, yeah.
Name one of the suggestions that Dr. Kazarouni spoke of into changing the way we
Organize or
our
approach our youth
our
community.
youth in the community. Get them more involved, I guess.
Ultimately, that's the goal.
Yes. So name one of the approaches that Dr. Kazarouni mentioned. I want you, meanwhile, while you're sitting there, to think about the questions that you may want to ask in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Name one of the approaches, the suggestions that Dr. Kazarouni put forth to dealing with our youth. Let me remind everyone here that we post all the lectures of Dr. Kazarouni online at www.iiokonline.org, Islamic Institute of Knowledge, iiokonline.org. All these lectures are posted online for the last 7 days. It's been eight nights. Time is going by so fast.
Flying, yes.
It's flying.
They say time flies when you are enjoying yourself.
Yes, we are enjoying this indeed. We do have a question here. You can keep the answers with you, or whenever we pass by, you can hand them to us. Before you leave, just make sure that Brother Rashid have your answers.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
When you were talking about the brainwash, do you mean every time we go to school for 8 hours, we're being brainwashed? Is that what you meant?
No, what Dr. Karim Siddiqui came out of the result of his survey was that for children not to be allowed to be influenced by secular school, literally for every hours that they spend at a secular school, you need to spend 2 hours, not to brainwash. What he meant was to work with them to remove the effect of learning that takes place, or hostile learning that takes place during that 1 hour. It's a use of the language that might have not been appropriate.
So no brainwashing is happening.
No, I mean what he meant was literally, so if you allow your kids to go to secular school and secular school becomes their main source of information, if you want to remove the effect of that and keep them somehow within the value system that you have, then you have to spend 2 hours for every hour.
There is some type of brainwashing in school.
It takes place, yes.
Yeah.
Very subtle. Very subtle. Starts from early age. And they use it. I have worked with a number of child psychologists. When you sit with them and you know read between the lines, the secular mindset, Haj Kamal, is that gradually remove religion, religious values, concept of God and everything else from the mind of a child.
Subliminal
Exactly.
message that
It's
goes
that background
with the
music.
teaching.
Yes, background music.
It's a background.
So it is, but very subtle.
You want to ask? Hajj Hussain would like to ask. He wasn't here yesterday. Did you notice that?
But he compensated for it to come over there.
Assalamu alaikum. You know, the youth are the hope of the future. From your own experience, well, what do you think about like some of the centers, they have youth organization, or from your own experience, what can you dwell on that? How effective is it, and how much useful is it?
I cannot speak on behalf of centers. What I can speak is on behalf of the youth organizations that I have worked with. The youth organizations that I have worked with, if we clearly understood what they wanted and where we wanted them to go, and worked with them and provided them with the information, and they participated in decision making, they have succeeded. If we spoke, as Brother Rashid said earlier, if we spoke on behalf of them, we decided for them, and we told them what they should learn, what they shouldn't learn, then it's not going to go anywhere. And by the way, it's a challenge that has been posed not by Muslim community, Muslim youth. With due respect to our community, the Shia community, the Sunni community is becoming more successful in developing plans to deal with the children. Some of these plans could go extreme. And you see youth leaving United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and ended up blowing themselves in Iraq or somewhere else. But there is a program organized, a specialist brought in to stop the effect that secularism has on their children. So we may need to consult a number of specialists. So my answer is, if we have a plan and we really give them the chance to be active, and we stay on the background, provide them with the information, not supervise, just provide them, work with them, help them. Ultimately, when they grow, they have to become the decision makers of the community. If we create that plan for them, then they will succeed. If no, we keep them at arm's length, and we shouldn't hear from them, we shouldn't see them, but we will make a decision for them, then it's problematic.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I just wanted to make a comment about, including myself and all of us, always using the blame game. We tend to always blame the centers, the Islamic centers, for the gaps that we have in the community. The centers
I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
We always blame the Islamic centers for the gaps that we have. But we all know that the centers are only buildings. And what makes these centers organizations is effective leadership. I think that having an effective leadership at the center will draw the different talents that will start the services that we need. So with all of us, and I said again, including myself, instead of always using the blame game, we all need to build a sense of community in ourselves and in our children, and this is what we lack, I think, in the community and in our different households. If you are doing a good job raising your kids, you tend to stay away raising your children in a very small environment, and we do not extend that to maybe their peers or to the different centers. I think we need to just broaden our services to build the sense of community in our community as a whole.
Excellent point. There is a research done by an African-American professor. I think the result of research was written in a book called The Beloved Community. And the whole thesis was that you cannot ask she put it in the context of a church. You cannot ask the church to provide you with all the solution or the answers to your problem if there is no sense of commitment from the congregation to get involved. Because as you said, church at the end of the day or center at the end of the day is just a set of building. The sense of commitment that we have, not only feeling obligated to ourselves and our children, to actually cut few of the hours that we can sit in front of the TV on a regular basis and come and give it to the center for the service of the community. Then we will be able to do something. So it's mutual relationship between the center and people that use it. If we stay behind or we stay away and expect miracle to take place, wherever you say something, the center has to provide us with that, as if miraculously the center can wave a magic wand and the whole thing becomes available. It's not going to happen. What we need to do is, yes, we understand our commitment and our responsibility, and we are prepared to go and work with the center, not only have a list of demand, but to work with the center to actualize those services that we are looking for, then it will work.
I have another comment, thank you, and hence the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. I tend to take notes, not for myself, but I like to reflect when I go home, and I like to go over my notes with my son. Because sometimes I feel, like you said, the language, sometimes it's too abstract for the children, and it's not at his level. So I see different ages, so I suggest for all of us, like I do right now, because you did mention some scientists, you did mention Imam Ali, you did mention the Quran. So I like to take it back and reflect at home and discuss it with our children. Like take these into consideration and make connections throughout the day. I'm just saying this as a comment for all of us.
Sister, the comment is valid, but at the same time you have to understand the speaker that comes when you have a mix of audience.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying that's why we need to take the language down.
Permit me to finish.
Thank you.
When you have a mix of audience that not from only the age perspective, their understanding, their knowledge and so on are different. It's a challenging, how can I put, struggle that when you deliver a sermon to be able to kind of pitch it to which part of the audience. If you pitch it too high for the adult, the highly educated, they understand it, and obviously for the rest it becomes abstract. If you pitch it too low and you try to change the language and the context, mindful of the way children understand, try to make it that, it's going to be useless for the adults. The reason why I suggested had these proposals is that the whole mix of the two together becomes problematic. Because you use the language for the adult, the children simply don't understand it. The best thing is to try a different approach for the youth. They respond much better in workshop structure rather than in a classic lecture or sermon, where conversation takes place, examples are given. I hope your son will be able to, after consultation with you, come up with some comments, emails and so on that we can entertain it.
If you would please just control the children. These two ladies, they work with the Dearborn Public Schools. I just want you to know that. Haji Fatmi Bazzi, Mr. Haj Imad Faraj's wife, she's a principal at Lori? Maples Elementary. And
Inaya Sulfana Makalla Yunus. Makalla Yunus.
What do you do?
I'm a resource teacher.
So you would think that they have the specialized opinion here?
You know, my comment was, and I don't think you understood my comment, is for the parents to take this level, different level of communication, different level of delivery, whatever, take it home, discuss it with your children. I'm doing this, look at my son, he's talking right now, he's not even paying attention. I'm putting him on the spot. He's not listening. And I'm sure some kids are not listening. And I know, like you said, sometimes it's not my fault. It's all of us.
Sister, don't get me involved between yourself and your son. So that's
I'm his mom and his dad, so I'm doing a good job for now.
Resolve it between the two of you at home. But what I was trying to suggest is that these workshops would focus on these points. If we try to organize.
No more microphone for you.
No more microphone.
Anyone would like to comment on this? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Just if you can extend your program, because we cannot get only 20 or 30 minutes is not enough. If you could extend your program so we can get more and more, and you make a variety of speeches. If you understand my comment. يعني إذا تقدرون إذا بالإمكان إنه تمددون البرنامج.
يعني
تمديد
البرنامج يعني نبلش من الساعة 10:30 مع الأسف أنا أكون هنا 10:30 ماكو أحد.
يعني إذا تحرك لل 10:45 وتعطي ربع ساعة بعد ال 12.
احنا عندنا مشكله مساله ورا
just so everybody knows what he's saying, he wants the program to be a little bit longer, so maybe we may start earlier, but we already tried. We tried to come in at 10:30 and it's been pushed to almost 11 o'clock. 11:45. People fast, they get tired a little slower after they eat, so we wait for you guys. That's why we want you to be here. We start whenever you come in. I know, and then we have another program after midnight, and they're pushing us to finish this one too. So, but thank you for the suggestion. We tried. We've been trying. So, do you want to comment on this more?
No, I mean as they explain, I'm willing to come even earlier. I pass my iftar just pray and come over here. I don't mind. The only problem is that even when I come here at 10:30, Brother Rashid and I are the only one around. We sit and we chat.
I apologize. I drive half an hour just to come here.
I wasn't meaning you. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just
audience.
saying. Maybe there are people in the audience also that do the same thing. They have to drive. And it's not an easy timing. After 9:30 is your.
Haj Kamal, it's the constraint that we have to operate within it. It creates its own parameters.
Right.
The time will be limited. The structure will be limited, etc., etc.
True. Any more comments that we?
I do.
You do.
So, and I'm glad that you guys asked this question. I also think that having a center that's welcoming, that's in which young people could come in and not feel like they're being judged or that judgment is being placed. I think that's very important, is that people feeling comfortable. It's okay if you're, if you don't look like everyone else, right? Or if you may have a different style. Or maybe you're struggling. We're singing or speaking to the choir, or singing to the choir, as they say. And I feel as though that it goes back to that radical change. In the past, Haj Kamal, and I want to say something, as chairman of the board, there has been radical change to this specific center, and we've seen great strides made. However, I've said it before, Sheikh Abdul Latif, Ayatollah al-Marja, said, the youth are half the present, and all the future. So if we don't invest, that was mine. So if we don't invest in our youth, we lose half the present and all of our future. And that's important. So my thing is, maybe finding, what are the youth doing right now? What are they doing at this very moment? I was turned on to Islam because there were sheikhs that were willing to be, I guess you can say, quote unquote, radical. He had Xboxes in the maktab. And then we would have, lectures afterwards. But there was Xboxes. We got to play Xbox. And then when it was time to have a lecture, we had a lecture. And we did Dua Tawassul and we did Dua Kamal. But it was welcoming, and he never judged you. The baggage was never there.
Brother Rashid, if you go to Google and type in, why do youth run away from churches? These are researches done by Pew Trust. Even I believe Harvard did something similar, or Princeton did something. All the researches that they have done, they come up with about 5 or 6 different factors that lead to the youth running away. Few of them you mentioned: judgmental, expectation, top-down, classic approach, no change, etc., etc. But the centers don't feel welcoming, etc. I've worked with rabbis, they don't have synagogues. Whenever they want to work with the youth, they get on a bike and they go to the trails where the youth actually spend their time going up the mountain and coming down, or even running around with the motorbike. He gets on one of them, and once they got tired, he gets them, okay, let's sit together and talk. There are ways that we can do this. Other people have tried it, but as you said, if we really believe that they are half of the present and all of the future, then we really need to come up with a plan, some kind of structure that deals with their crisis, understand them, let them slowly change.
We need a workshop.
How about the paper?
Inshallah.
Like you said, we do need a paradigm shift in the way that we approach this, in our thinking, mostly. Any last comments, questions? Okay. I appreciate you coming in every night and staying with us. Okay, thank you very much. Inshallah, we will see you tomorrow night after 10:30. Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.